Better World Blueprint. Good humans doing good things.
To nourish your body, you eat good food. With this podcast, you can nourish your mind. Help your brain feel better by feasting on these good news stories in human form. I'm Siobhan Hunt. Welcome to A Better World Blueprint. I first met Samantha Payne when I was hosting a parenting podcast around 10 years ago. She was raising awareness about the devastating impact of miscarriage through the charity she founded, Pink Elephants. Since then, Samantha and her team have successfully lobbied government for bereavement leave inclusion in the workplace. They've developed support programs for people to use online or in the workplace and have helped thousands of women. Perhaps most profoundly, they've helped to change the conversation around miscarriage. I hope you enjoy this chat with Samantha Payne, CEO of the Pink Elephants Support Network. Hello, Sam, and welcome to A Better World Blueprint.
Hi, Siobhan. Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
This business is started from a very, very personal place with yourself. It is part of the story of Pink Elephant, but for those who don't know you, can you tell me and tell us what led you to founding Pink Elephants?
Sure. So I have lived experience of recurrent pregnancy loss. And it was back in 2015, 2016 that we lost two babies in the space of 6 months. Two very much wanted, loved babies. And we experienced a miscarriage and what's awfully deemed a natural miscarriage, both of which devastated me. Honestly, the loss knocked me because I'd heard of this term miscarriage. I knew it was something that happened. I'd heard the thing that it's common, but I didn't think, A, it would happen to me because I already had a child, Georgie, at that point. And I didn't realize how deeply I would grieve those babies that I hadn't even met, that I couldn't physically hold, but I would have given anything to be able to hold them. And then I kept hearing this number of 1 in 4 pregnancies end in loss. And I was like, surely I'm not the only person to feel this way. Surely I'm not the only person to feel absolutely blindsided by these losses, terrified that I'm never going to have another baby in my arms. Surely other women feel this way. So why aren't we talking about it? And I started to connect with other parents then that had lost their babies. And that's where the idea for Pink Elephants came, because it was like, okay, well, I'm not the only person. Other people do feel like this, but we're just doing this for some weird reason in silence, and it's almost like brushed under the carpet. No one knows how to speak about it, so we don't speak about it. I've always been known for being a bit of a talker and someone who challenges things and never accept the status quo. And I think that married with the experience meant that I was the person to do this and to go, enough is enough. This is utter ridiculousness. We shouldn't all be at home crying alone. We should be offered some kind of connection to each other so that we can help each other through this. You can never fix it. I won't ever get my babies back. And you can't take away my grief, but you can make it easier to go through by being there for me and being present with me. And yeah, it's funny actually today that we're doing this because I had a post come up on Facebook last night that reminded me it's 9 years ago since we started. And I'm like, wow, how did that happen? Like, where did those 9 years go? I don't know.
And I feel like I spoke to you at the very beginning of this whole, going to use the word journey of Pink Elephants. And it's such a privilege to be talking to you again and to be able to talk about just what a difference you have made and how much you've grown since that first inception. But let's start at the very beginning. When you realised you wanted to make a difference, it was at a time, as you mentioned, that people weren't talking about miscarriage. I think it might be hard for people to wrap their head around today that so much has changed in the way we talk about this now. But back then, you're right, people knew going into pregnancy that it was a possibility. We didn't talk to our girlfriends about it. It wasn't something that people were really talking about. But it seems almost a ephemeral idea in some respects. Like what you were trying to do was change the conversation. So how exactly do you go about that once you've decided this isn't good enough? I want to change things. What steps did you take?
Oh, there's kind of like two sides of it. There's the business and the operation side of founding a charity that I've learned so much in the last 9 years that if you'd have told me a decade ago you'll be running a national charity supporting thousands each month, I would have laughed at you. And I've been like, no, I'm a primary school teacher. That's what I do. That's my identity. So there's that side. But then there's also the advocacy side, which does form part of the operations of Pink Elephants. But I think what people need to hear here is that ability to lean in and have difficult conversations and to have the courage to start conversations with people who don't understand and to explain to them why this is a profound thing, why it hurts so deeply, and to keep having those conversations time after time and consistently showing up. I think consistency is massively underrated. The last 9 years has been me every day doing something to build Pink Elephants. Whether that's a thought or an idea to build a new program, going out, testing it, developing it, testing it again to make sure it is what people want and then launching it, or whether that's just simply going out and having conversations with more people who've had different experiences to mine, because Pink Elephants was never about my experience. It was about a collective. That's why it was called Pink Elephants, more than one, right? There's the story of a mother elephant loses her baby, the other elephants form a physical circle of support around her. And when we read that, we were like, that's who we are. We are that. And so again, building Pink Elephants, starting these conversations required listening to so many different types of experience. I personally haven't had a termination for medical reasons, but the double disenfranchisement of that experience is horrific because we have so much extra layers of judgment that shouldn't be there, in my opinion, on that experience. And I've learned so much by not shying away from those really awful, hard conversations, but actually leaning in and letting people know that I'm a safe space and that they can tell me what's happened to them. And I've listened deeply. And I feel that that's a really, again, another skill that we don't talk about enough. Yes, I can have ideas, but those ideas come from our community. Like, so many things have happened because I've listened to the need and gone, okay, well, there's a gap. We need to do something in that space.
I just want to go back to something you just said a second ago, that you said you're a primary school teacher. I understand what you're saying in terms of the listening and the responding to the needs, and that's the primary objective of Pink Elephants and what you do. But how did you work out the business side of it? When I say business, obviously there's a structure for the charity that you needed to build, that you needed to be the scaffold for what you were trying to create. So how does a primary school education and a career equip you, or was it something else that allowed you to be able to build the business itself?
There's a couple of things. So yes, I was a primary school teacher at that point when I was going through the losses, but I was also, prior to that, I have a degree in advertising and media. So I've definitely always had this kind of innate skill of storytelling, and didn't call it that. That was not the word that we used like when I was doing my degree many years ago. And then education's always given me the horizon planning. So I could always go, okay, we want to get here. I know that I've got to do short, medium and long-term goals. It's given me the ability to break things down and also be able to communicate them to really little people, because I was kindy in year one, who don't get things unless it's in the simplest, most plainest of language, right? And sometimes that's what I've needed to do to spell this out to politicians and doctors and to health professionals. It's not needed, this whole elevated clinical language around it. If anything, we want to move away from that. And then I think it's also leading with heart. I think yes, I set a charity up, but that was because when we were in the beginning of, this is an idea, okay, this needs to be a business, but I don't want to profit from this. This is not for me to scale, to sell, to make millions from. Never, ever. This is for me to support as many people as possible. So what's the right structure? Go away. Look, came back. There was options then of social enterprise, and it was really the beginning. No one knew what a social enterprise was. It was called a B Corp still, and there was that kind of whole world. And I was like, yeah, but we have to sell something then, and I don't want to be a barrier to access. So I was like, we are a charity. And then the more that I kind of learned about charity structure, because I knew nothing about charities, I didn't even understand fundraising, I kind of then went into that whole world. I was like, this feels right. And I went with that. I went, okay, it feels right. We're going to register as a charity, step one. And then we're going to have to build the content, build the website, tell people what we do. And yet again, coming back to breaking things down into small chunks and then consistently each day coming and doing a little bit more, like whatever that was, each day has always been so different. It's never the same. Even now, 9 years in, I am one day I'm doing something else and the next day it's completely I absolutely thrive in that.
Which is very lucky because it's obviously worked.
Yeah.
Did you ever stumble along the way?
Oh, so many times. So many times. We've failed at things. We've started different things that haven't resonated. But you learn from each of those experiences without being cliched. That's true. I've stumbled many times as a leader and gone through huge periods of imposter syndrome where I'm like, okay, I shouldn't be here. This shouldn't be me. I need to step away and let a real CEO step in now. Huge. Even last year, that was a big year for me and massive internal dialogue. 8 years in, and I was like, oh, right, okay, this deserves now someone else who's, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to be the advocacy person. Somebody else can do all that side of things. And it was just actually more of a reflection of where we were and how difficult it was to be providing so much support with such a lack of funding underneath us for so long. Like that was really difficult for Pink Elephants. We've since secured government funding, which has made a massive, massive difference this year for us. And honestly, that took 8 years of lobbying and saying, hey, this is an issue you need to wake up to. Like women are really struggling with this. We've got anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder. We've got depression. We've got suicidal thoughts. This is horrific. And we know the way that we can make a difference and reduce the risk of poor mental health by giving women early intervention support. It's not actually that hard, but we just didn't have the resources to scale. So I had to keep having these really hard, difficult conversations trying to explain why it was so important, but then constantly getting knockbacks. So this year we don't have funding for that. Well done, it's a really nice thing that you're doing, but we've got enough. And that was also really hard because you've got this personal me, my babies, you're telling me my babies didn't matter enough. Like that hurts. And then I can see the need. I can see the difference our programs are making. I'm like so proud of them. Absolutely. The emails, that's why I still do, like the things that people say to us when they get the support they deserve brings tears to you. It's beautiful. And I could see all of this, but I just couldn't get that next part of funding that we really desperately needed. And we've finally done that now. And there's more that we need to do, but it's been a huge step for us and it's made a massive difference. Yeah, it's so much. Yeah.
Tell me about the program. So how did you develop the right kind of support for women? Because that's part of it. Obviously, you're an advocate. You're trying to get more attention to the issue. But how did you develop that support side of it?
So funny. I'm going to start with the fancy term now that I've learned 9 years in, but this is not what we called it 9 years ago. It's like one of them where you learn so much. So Pink Elephants, and what we say, we're an early intervention support organisation. We're digital first. We underpin all of our programs with evidence and empathy, and we provide a stepped model of care, meaning that women can come to us and they can choose what programs are appropriate and right for them at whatever point they are in their journey. And we support pregnancy loss, trying to conceive after loss, and pregnancy after loss. So the whole journey, because again, often it's perceived as a week in time and then that woman's fine. What we forget is actually that woman really wants another baby. She's going to try again. You have to be incredibly brave to be willing to roll the dice and fall pregnant again, knowing that you might experience another loss. Then you do fall pregnant, hopefully. You've got pregnancy after loss and you've got to navigate things like scan anxiety. You've got to navigate every time you go to the bathroom, checking for blood, like all these things that people don't see because we don't talk about enough. And so that's kind of how I describe it now. But if I go back to 2016, it was really just about connection. It really was just about bringing groups together. And we looked and we thought, well, we don't want this to have that kind of AA feeling where you're in a church and you come together and like come on, it's by that point, Instagram was just starting. And I was like, this is not right, that we can't do these physical meetups. How on earth are we ever going to, and I did have a bit of a vision, but I was like, you can't scale that. It's really difficult. It's unreliable. It's expensive, all those things. And so we decided to set Facebook groups up. And they just grew so quickly because we quite clearly were meeting women where they were, scrolling on Facebook, grieving the loss of the baby. We pop up, they join a group, they connect with other women who are currently going through a loss like them, and they feel less alone. They feel validated, they feel seen, and they feel like they can share I've had a really shit day today. My best friend's just announced that she's pregnant. How come she gets to keep a baby and my baby died? So things that you wouldn't normally say to your own friend group for fear of judgment can be said in this safe space online. And so the digital approach worked really well for Pink Elephants. And then all that's happened is each year we continue to kind of listen and see the need, and a new advocacy program would come. So Leave for Loss, the reason we managed to advocate for the change to the Fair Work Act of Australia was because women were in those online communities sharing how awful it was being back at work the same day they'd had the scan that morning and told that their baby had died, and then they were expected back at work because it wasn't bereavement leave, because they were told they could have sick leave. But they weren't sick. They didn't have the flu. They hadn't broken their arm. It didn't make any sense. But just no one else had stopped to listen to the needs of specifically early pregnancy loss and the journey, and then look at, okay, well, what are the gaps in policy? What are the gaps in health programs? And that's where we have a really unique place. And so all of our programs always come from the need of our community. And then now, as we've got more mature as an organisation, we have things now like community reference groups, which make me sound really fancy. People with lived experience telling us like what's happening. That's all that is. But yeah, you mature as an organisation, but you can never lose the why and the connection to those that you exist to support. I'm past it now. I'm not going to have any more babies. I'm not going to be pregnant. I don't have a risk of miscarriage anymore. Huge relief for me. But it does mean that we still need to then even more so listen to those that are currently in this. What's their experience today? How has it changed? Because it has changed.
In some ways, I bet 9 years feels like a blink, and in others, a lifetime away. For starters, our babies are now much older and life changes as they grow. Are you able to reflect on how the work has changed you?
Deeply. I'm a better person for this. I have learned so much from the others that I have exist to serve. I've found my purpose, which is not corny, it's true, and it just feels really like heart-led. And I feel like I can wake up every day and do something that makes a genuine difference, and I'm incredibly proud of that. I've definitely slowed down now.
I don't know if I believe that.
Some people might say, no, you're still, because it was very much in the early days. Okay, try this, run, let's go, let's do it. And I have a lot of energy naturally. I'm very much that person that everyone's like, oh my God, not at 5 a.m., go away. I see it in my 3-year-old now. But yeah, so I've definitely learnt now the power of a pause and the ability to stop, critically reflect, and then make a decision, which is interesting. I definitely didn't have that skill set 9 years ago at all. I would have always gone, okay, well, I think we should do this, so we're going to do this. And it needed that in that phase. Pink Elephants needed someone just to ignore the noise, run at it 110 miles an hour and make it happen. But we are definitely at a different place now. And I get to work alongside some incredibly skilled, articulate, and I'm like, you want to work with me? Wow. Like, they're amazing, my team at the moment. They've always been amazing, all the people who've worked with us, but particularly now. And I just feel like there is such a privilege in allowing them to grow and them to shape the next future of Pink Elephants, not just me anymore. And I've got this incredible board, incredible core team. And yeah, it's a really nice phase to be in right now. I'm going to acknowledge that because it's such a struggle found in a charity. It's not for the faint-hearted, put it that way.
As I said at the start, I feel privileged to have been at the start to see you starting all of this, and it's a privilege you don't often get to see the evolution of a concept or an idea to such a significant, solid place that Pink Elephants is now in. I know that you support lots and lots of women. I'm just wondering if you're able to articulate the impact you've seen from your work. Standing outside looking in, I can see the impact because the conversation itself has changed, which sounds like a really elusive thing, but when you reflect back to the beginning and to where we're at now, it's a very different space when we talk about pregnancy loss. Are you able to articulate the impact you've seen of this work?
Yeah, I think in some ways, I feel like on a broader perspective, like kind of omnipresent view as a society, Pink Elephants has been a huge leader in the moving us from the at least it happened early, at least you know you can get pregnant, to I'm sorry your baby died. And I feel like we are getting way better at providing women the validation and empathy that they deserve when they lose a baby to early pregnancy loss. I feel like there's a deeper understanding of the profound loss. We're not there yet. There's still many women that will be minimized, that won't be met with what they deserve in that experience. But we've definitely seen a shift in that, and I'm really proud of that. And then in terms of our direct impact, I know, like, we've measured the impact of things like our grief support online group program, where we've reduced the DAS, which is the depression, anxiety, and stress scale. We've reduced the PGS, the perinatal grief scale. So we know that women come into us and it's quite heightened, which is normal after an early pregnancy loss. So it's not like, oh my God, you've got poor mental health. It's actually, this is strong grief. This is what you're feeling. They go through a program with us and we reduce that. And we leave them feeling like they can get through the next few months. Whereas they come to us and they say things like, I'm broken. No one understands me. It's my fault. I'm so ashamed. I did this one thing, like I went for this one run. It's all this kind of internal dialogue playing out in their heads by themselves. They go through one of our programs or they speak to one of our volunteers on live chat, and they come away feeling connected, seen, and less alone, and like, okay, I can take a breath. I can do this. I can choose to do what I want to do next, whether that's to try again or maybe it's not, because not everyone does, but they feel like they can. So I guess that we've kind of had this broader impact on society and the perception of early pregnancy loss. And we've had a direct impact, which is the part that I'm most proud of. Every single person, it's magic, really, that what we get to do. It really is. Mm-hmm. Mm. Yeah, 100%. Less so now, because genuinely now I'm in a different position. But absolutely, when I was founding Pink Elephants and grieving the loss of my baby, when you would connect with another woman that got it, there was this sense of relief that no one else could give you. And so it has been absolutely cathartic for me. I do also want to acknowledge that it's been incredibly difficult for me, though, as well, because I've had to work during things like pregnancy after loss, where I was hiding during COVID that I was pregnant with Rose at that point. I was terrified I would lose another baby. We were announcing leave for loss was successful, and I was hiding a pregnancy bump. And the endurance that's required to still show up for others that are grieving the loss of their baby whilst you're terrified you're going to lose another baby, it wasn't helpful then, if I'm honest, and probably wasn't the best thing that I did, but I did do it, and I'm proud that I've got through. But yeah, it's definitely been cathartic. And I know also another layer of that is our volunteers, our peer support companions, who are the most beautiful, amazing women that give their time, and they're on live chat. They're real women on the end of a kind of like, it says a computer, I nearly said a call, but they're there, right? They say us, that was one of the unexpected outcomes. They told us that this is the way that they feel like almost closure with their own journeys, that they're giving someone else what they never got. So there's catharticism there for them. There's a processing of their own losses. So yeah, I love that. I love that about Pink Elephants. Definitely, it's that circle again.
Well, Sam, I'm so pleased that I got to speak to you and celebrate everything you've done for women and with your work with Pink Elephants. So thank you so much for speaking with me today.
Thank you for having us. Appreciate it.
Samantha Payne, CEO of the Pink Elephants Support Network. You'll find links to the charity in the notes of this episode. I'm Siobhan Hunt. See you next time on A Better World Blueprint.